everyone, and welcome back to Haunt the Collector with me, Jason. This is a video I wasn't planning on doing today, to be perfectly honest with you. It was really something that only came along sort of later on yesterday afternoon, where I was all the images and the video and everything of the Infinity Studios half-scale Witch King come out. And again, on a lot of the groups, I was reading certain comments where, once again, as it was when the Prime 1 Witch King came out, there were people jumping up and down, making comparisons and basically highlighting inaccuracies to the film. Which is fine, but I'll be honest with you, it was bugging me with the Prime when the Prime 1 came out, and people kept jumping on, oh, this is wrong and that's wrong, and then it was happening again. And you know what? So I thought, you know what? Instead of just getting mildly wound up about it, I thought, let's put the time and effort in, and let's have a bloody look. Let's have a real look, and let's just see how inaccurate some of these pieces are. So what I did was, I got Darkseid's own pictures. I took screenshots of those. The same with Prime 1s, and the same with the available ones for the Infinity pieces. I then put the film on. I put the bloody film on. I didn't go on Google Images. I put the bloody film on, and I photographed as much of the Witch King as I could, as he is relevant in his crown and his armour and everything on. And then I made, as you'll see in this video, collages, so you can clearly compare them all to the film, each other, blah, 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 which I felt was the fairest way of doing it. And there were a couple of things that leapt out at me that I hadn't seen before. I admit I hadn't seen them before. And I was taking into consideration what everybody else had said. So this is just a video to show you what I saw. And to be honest with you, it's proof. I'll do that at the end. I'll do that at the end of the video. I won't say it now because you probably won't bother watching. So let's start. Let's get into this, because I've got a really busy day today. It's my daughter's birthday, and I've not long come back from the gym, and yeah, there's a lot on, and I've not even had a chance yet to play bloody Ragnarok. I've literally was downloaded it last night and I haven't bloody played it yet. So let's crack on. I want to have a look. The first image I'm going to put up, just to emphasise on really taking this approach, to take this real over the top, shall we say, I've got to say it's somewhat anal approach, how flawed that is, how difficult a job you've set yourself if you're going to do that. And again, we'll go through loads more images and I'll emphasise this. These two images here are both of the Witch King of Angmar, both taken from the film, taken moments apart. Only moments in the film apart, and as you can clearly see, the prongs at the bottom of the helmet, in the one image, they are touching. They are that close together. And in the other image, which was only moments later in the film, they are miles apart. They're more than, about a jaw's width apart. So straight away, how can statue companies perfectly replicate something that in itself alters in the movie? I just wanted to put that out there before we started, for those of you who don't know, and just to show just really how well, pointless this whole thing is. But anyway, let's crack on, because I put a lot of work into this. So we'll go with the crown. That's the piece that everybody goes on about, the crown. Now, when I compiled this image, this collage here of the crowns, a lot of the comments that I read, I agree. I agree with them. I'll go out there now and I will say that I agree with the fact that certainly when you look at the eyes and the mouth area, for me, I got to give a tick to Darkseid Collectibles one. They seem to have nailed that better than anyone else. Also, there is a puncture mark on the left side of the crown, which only Darkseid seem to have picked up on. They've put it, although they've made their hole way too big. If you want to be picky, they've made the hole way too big, twice as big as it needs to be. But kudos, they're the only ones that seem to have noticed it. Now, without question, unfortunately, the Infinity one does seem to be the furthest away for accuracy. The base of the central spine is way too thick. The spine itself is too short. They've gone way over the top with the weathering. The eyes look to be the wrong shape as well. They look to be triangular. So no argument there. However, I was quite surprised to look at these images here to see how close Prime 1 got. Because if you look at the actual texture and the colour and the general appearance of the crown as a whole, for me, the Prime 1 one was the better one. I was quite surprised because it had got so much stick before, and I hadn't really looked into it much myself because I was perfectly happy with the Prime 1, as I am. I'll say I'll get to that at the end. But looking at this image, I find it hard to argue against the point that Prime 1 is the more accurate. For me, for my money, the image is there. See for yourself. That's just how I see it. As all these images I'm going to go through, is how I see it and how I interpret it. But I'm putting these images on to show you all what I can see. And I'm explaining that as I go. Hopefully I'm explaining that as I go. Right, let's go on to the other bone of contention that people had, was the sword. Now, when I did this image, I was gobsmacked. Because if we're going to be super picky here, I've got to sit here and say, looking at that image, straight away the first thing that leapt at me, well, all three statue companies, the sword's inaccurate. Because you can clearly see from this image, which I took from the film, the Witch King's sword has a rounded tip. It isn't a sharp tip, it's a rounded tip. Clearly. All the others obviously have made sharp tips, because aesthetically that would look right, and if they hadn't done it, people would have said, well, where's this sword got a blunt tip? So you could argue they're all inaccurate on the sword. Now, there was other areas that I looked at. The notch, which is down by the pommel, looks further up the sword than any of the others have achieved to me. Again, that might just be my eyes. And it looks uneven as well. It looks uneven in the film. All the others, again, aesthetically, they've made them perfect. It didn't look like it was perfect in the film. Also, the general wear on the sword, the actual worn effect they've got on the sword, for me, the better one from the images that I've got available, Infinity seem to have just edged that for me. But again, these are the images I've got to work with, my opinion on them. Going from that weapon, we'll look at the other weapon, because again, that's been a huge bone of contention for some people, which is the mace. Oh, if you knew how much work I put into this. That's why I didn't play that game. That's knackered afterwards. The thing I saw straight away on this, again, was, which surprised me, I hadn't seen it before, if you look at the spines that come out of that mace, and look at the film one, but look at the upper ones, they are at a really sharp upward angle. A good, I would say, 40 degrees to the horizontal. A real sharp angle. Now, Prime 1s are almost flat. Dark sides are, although slightly raised, nowhere near raised enough. I've got to say the one from the images that looked the closest to it, to get in that angle for me, was the Infinity Studios one. And while we're on the mace, I know Prime 1, because the thing is huge, I don't think the size looked right on any three. To me, when I looked at the film and how big it is in the film, all three of them, the mace looks too small. To me, to my eyes. But stay, while we're on this, the chain, because I know a lot of people said the chain on the Infinity one looks too long, which I agree, it does look too long. However, the chain looks the most accurate apart from that, because it's a really thick, sturdy chain. Prime 1's isn't too bad, but the one on the dark side one, I felt the chain on that looks very, very slim to me, very thin, very almost too feeble to hold that mace up. Incredibly, another area that not so much this time around, but it was before when Prime 1s came out. And I was slightly confused by people who were commenting on this, but people were on about the robes and how Prime 1 had got the robes wrong, which again, look for yourself. Now, I tried to get the best image I could to show the complexity of the robes used in the film. And I'm hoping this image kind of shows that. It shows that clearly there is more than one fabric being used. You can see huge differences in the texture, but also how worn they are and how dusty and dirty they are. Now, for me, both Infinities and Dark Sides are completely monotone in colour, which is inaccurate to me, to my eye. You can hear, again, the image is there, look for yourself. There is somewhere that I noticed that Infinity have put on theirs, but for me, again, going from these images, from what I can see, the one that came the closest, and I said this way back on my video when Prime 1 released theirs, and I was giving my honest opinion, I'm giving my honest opinion now, but I'm doing it now with bloody photos, Prime 1 looks to be the closest. So, finally, people were talking about the shoulder pauldrons on them. So again, I've got an image here which I hope shows the shoulder pauldrons the best. And again, there was inaccuracies across the board, really, but some were closer than others. And I'm boring myself having to say this, because this is the thing that I took from this, guys. This is the thing that I took looking at all this, because the inaccuracies, some are more obvious than others. Some are so small, so puerile. I don't even have the energy to discuss it, let alone write it in a bloody comment. But the point of this video was because I wasn't going to do it, and then I thought, if somebody was to say to me, all right, look, Jace, you've done all this work, you've looked at all this, blah, 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 we've all got the same photographs to work off, the same film to watch, what order would you put them? Not in what order would I recommend people buy them, my personal order of favourites. And I'll answer that, I'll give you that. And I'll give you the reasons why I've gone for this order. Number one for me is the Infinity Studios half-scale one. Even though it is clearly, probably, arguably, the most inaccurate. But the reason why I put that number one is, from my mindset, if you have all three of them statues lined up here now, that Infinity one would stand out vastly more than the other two. It is the most eye-catching, it's the most awesome one because of its scale. The other reason as well is, and I didn't go into this in the comparisons, the Flaming Sword. The Prime 1 hasn't got the Flaming Sword. Only Darkseid and Infinity have done the Flaming Sword. Both the Infinity and the Darkseid Flaming Sword. The flame effect looks superb. But if you want to talk about accuracies, the reason why I didn't go into this is Darkseid's clearly set on the Pelennor fields, as is Prime 1's, as is, you've got to say, Infinity's, even though they've gone for a different pose, but he's got the mace, so you've got to say it's the Pelennor field. He didn't have the Flaming Sword in the Pelennor fields. Didn't have it. The same sword, but it went on fire. He only did that on the battlements of Minas Tirith. So that in itself is an inaccuracy, but we've got it as an extra in two of them. But again, Infinity's is going to stand out more because they've LED lit it. Superb. Fantastic. I mean, they really thought about this. And the other reason for me going for the Infinity one, which I feel this reason is pretty much inarguable to a degree. It's inarguable, for me it is anyway, is their price. Their price at $1,500. It is the joint lowest of the three statues, and it is the biggest one. Okay, you could argue that if you didn't have the exclusive Prime 1, the regular is $1,100. You can argue that Darkseid, if you're in Europe or in the EU, should I say, UK, that their price includes shipping. But for me, the price tag that Infinity have put on that half-scale piece is fantastic. In a time where everyone's complaining about statue prices, they've totally stopped that, and everyone's been gobsmacked. And I'll say this as well. Since that price was revealed, there are people now, I know, they have messaged me or I've seen them commenting, who are seriously considering the Infinity half scale. Seriously considering. A couple are going for it. And those people were not interested in either the Darkseid or the Prime 1 before. So, massive thumbs up, Infinity. Second for me would be the Prime 1. The reason for that is, as I said when I did the Prime 1 video on the Prime 1 Witch King, for me is that base. That exclusive base. For me, that was the winning thing for me. And it still is now. And I am keeping my pre-order on the Prime 1. For me, putting the Darkseid one last, solely, aesthetically, to me, to my eye, for my money, I don't like that ring round the base. I don't like that. And that's why I've not gone for that. And this is really getting to the crux of the whole point of this. Apart from the fact to point out all these tiny little minute inaccuracies. Not only is it, to me, having looked at all this, some of them are so small and futile, it's borderline in, well, it's tedious, to be honest with you. It's bloody tedious. But it comes down to the end how you see it yourself. you will all look at those images I've done and probably see it differently to me. Your choice will be different to me because of, well, you can't really say budget because they're all practically the same price, but display space, what scales you prefer, what, you know, everything about this comes down to personal choice. Personal choice of which one you want to go for. And I can talk about this till I'm blue in the face and it ain't going to change it, but I'm not trying to change your opinions. I'm just doing this video to show that for all those people who are being finicky about, oh, the sword's not quite right, oh, the mace ain't quite right, all the images are there, have a look. Look at how minute some of those inaccuracies are. And the argument at the end of the day, as I've proven in this video, is all three are inaccurate. So there's no argument left there, really. They're all three are inaccurate. So for me, it's a simple case of, for the first time that I can remember, as a Lord of the Rings collector, we've got three of the same character in three different scales by three different companies, all falling in pretty much the same price bracket for us to choose from, which is fantastic. That to me is the important thing. That is superb. I've never known this before with a Lord of the Rings piece. I don't know if any of you have. I certainly can't ever remember this being the case. Where you're spoilt for choice. I mean, crikey, I feel like a DC collector. Sorry to DC collectors, but you do get spoilt rotten. So, are you really that bothered that maybe the spike on the crown's too thick at the base, or it's not long enough, or the chain's too long, or the sword isn't quite right, the pommel's slightly the wrong? Because if you're that bothered about those tiny, tiny little things, I just don't see how you've got any statues in your collection that you're happy with, because they've all got flaws and inaccuracies about them. Every single one of them has. For me, it's a simple case of choice and getting pleasure from the pieces that I buy, and I don't look so deeply into this and get myself wound up to the point that I'm stressing about something that, let's be honest, 99% of people don't bloody care about. They don't care. Simple as that. When people start going on about all the robes at the bottom are folded, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? All I care about is how good it looks when it arrives here in this room. Peace of mind with security of who I'm buying from also plays a big role. I know there's some of you that watch this channel, you don't like Prime 1. You're not fans of Prime 1, and that's absolutely fine because that's your choice as well. So, oh my God, I don't know how, oh God, I've no idea what I will end up editing this video down to, but I've been talking for so long. Oh, so I'm going to wrap this one up, guys. I hope I've kind of made my point, because the inaccuracies, I'm not going to be that bothered. I'm either going to look at the piece and like it, or I'm not going to like it. I've given my reasons. I've told you what I think of all of them, and I hope through all those bloody images, I've shown you just how fickle it is to use an argument of inaccuracy. Unless it's blatant, unless it's something that is seriously wrong and needs highlight. So if you managed to stick the video out to this point, congratulations, well done. Let me know in the comments, which one do you prefer? Which one are you going for? Which one do you like the best? Which one do you think? Just anything regarding this, I'd love to hear from you. Shove it in the comments. And if, of course, if you've enjoyed the video, please give the video a like. And if you're new here, haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. That is it for this video. I am going to go. I'm going to edit this. I'm going to post it, and then I'm going to get my head stuck into God of War Ragnarok. Before I forget, Saturday I am doing a live stream on Pain Collectibles with Chasen, and we've got 3 guests coming, and they're from all over the shop. We've got one from Australia, one from Denmark, one from Portugal, and we are going to be discussing, very on theme for this video, we will be discussing Lord of the Rings statues with the Lord of the Rings range. That's what it will be. That is the entirety. So if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, a fan of statues, you're going to love that. That's on Pain Collectibles this Saturday. All the time zones are in the image I've put up on the screen now. If I remember to do it, I'll put a link to Pain Collectibles in the description thingy below. If I remember to do it, but you know what I'm like with my memory. I'm going. I hope you're all having a superb week. I'm having a great week. I'm off work. Woo! Take care of yourselves, guys. Have a brilliant week, and I will catch you all on the next video. My God, am I glad to get this one done. See ya.